All right. Hello, hello. We already have a few people in here. Great. Welcome back to our weekly live stream. Woo woo. Stupid. Anyway, let me go ahead and jump into this. So let's go ahead and do a screen share and let's get into this whole thing now. All right, let's just pop this over on the side over here. All right. Well, hope everyone's doing well. Just kind of start off with a little bit of the information in here. I've got a painting that we're going to work on today, which is I'm on this theme lately. Still, the theme is the dragons and knights. Dragons and knights. So I've had dragons and knights like always like fighting each other. It's kind of like a thing, but I'm actually going to have them be on the same team. they're like a combo. So you can see over here. Yeah, hopefully you guys can all see my Photoshop. Hopefully it's all transmitting well. But check it out. Really quick sketch. You can just see the character and the dragon lizard. I was on this theme from last week. It was really fun, and it's just been kind of catching ever since. So I wanted to do another painting. Also, on Instagram, I've been getting a lot of comments about the color palettes and you know how people are just saying, "Oh, I really like your color palettes," and stuff like that. And one of the things that I've been doing with this personal series is trying to push my sense of color. That's the thing, is pushing the sense of color. And my color sensibility naturally, just on a personal level. Let me jump into the live. If anyone's on live, go ahead and jump in. We can jump in a chat. Go ahead and jump on the Discord live. If you need a link, just let me know. I can throw one into the chat. But we can get on mic and do all that kind of good stuff. But here's the thing: is I've been doing this where let me kind of show you one of the strategies that I've been using. For example, okay, so here's like a photo, right? Here's a photo. And credit to the photographer, great photo I've been using for reference. And it's been a good photo. Now, it's good because I have the lizard and, you know, I have all like physical reference, right, of what's happening there. But I also, now let's say like I overly saturate it. It's the same photo and I overly saturate it. Kind of get these pops of, you know, I think you could see them like a little bit of blues and oranges. Some greens in the shadows, like on the tree. It's pretty cool, right? And then I'll do a filter pass, like a mosaic pass, and I'll just get some color, right? And so my start is, let me kind of walk through this. But one of the things that I want to do is like I want to start with like this big punch of color. So like this. Like imagine this is the sky tone, right? And then let's just punch like a super crazy color like on the ground. So like let's say that this is the ground tone. And so this is like the combo of what I kind of have to work with, or it feels like something like this, you know. So I'm gonna just kind of work on this painting. You'll see the kind of work through on all of that. But yeah, let's go ahead and do it. Topic wise though, I had something that I kind of prepared and I thought was, you know, and I have it in the description for the video, which is imposter syndrome, right? So it's a topic that I hear a lot about. Imposter syndrome. You know, let's see who's on mic. What's up, Henry? How's it going? But yeah, I mean, I don't know if, like, feel free if you want to jump into like a conversation, but imposter syndrome is something that I've heard, I hear a lot about, you know, definitely hear a lot about. And it's one of the things where I think can be a lot of people talk about, and maybe we can just kind of deeper dive into that topic just a little bit more to kind of understand it a bit more. You know, and what is imposter syndrome? Number one, And number two, like, what do we do about it? What do we do about it? So as I'm cleaning up this sketch over here, super, super loose sketch, we'll have a topic at least this week on that. All right, so just kind of sketching this arm. It's kind of funny. It's like design-wise, it's not the most exciting thing in terms of it's a very, very generic character and a very, very generic like lizard dragon. But I'm having just a lot of fun with making it a fun illustration. I think that's what's been really, really fun about all this. Just kind of like painting and doing all that kind of stuff. It's been my meditation. But yes, if you're watching the stream, go ahead and jump on the live stream or the live channel on our Discord. Let's have a conversation. Who's there? Who's just jumped in? What's up? How's it going?
It's going great, man. What's up with you?
Not much. Just doing the daily art grind and trying to just balance life. I think that's that's been the big thing. So yeah, imposter syndrome. What's that?
I'm from India. It's 8:30 in the morning.
Oh wow, nice, man. Bright and early. You're getting in your art vitamins, dude.
Yeah, man.
Okay, dude. Nice. Well, welcome. I hear more people jumping in. Let's try to put this somewhere where I could see. What up? Oh, I see some familiar names already. Nice. And then someone just left. Don't be shy. Anyway, imposter syndrome. So like I was doing some initial research, not research, but just kind of breaking down like what is imposter syndrome, because I think defining that first off is pretty important, So imposter syndrome, I guess, is kind of have some written down here. It's when people, artists, they like doubt their skills or their accomplishments. They downplay their abilities, or they have fear of something. That's probably a common, I think, definition when it comes to that. I'm wondering if there's any other definitions out there, that are there for what it is to have imposter syndrome.
Could it be kind of you just kind of comparing yourself to other people and just
comparing? Yep.
Yeah, and just kind of maybe they did something better than you, and you, I don't know, just having that doubt of like, oh, could I have done that as well?
So it's almost like a chain reaction. Like you kind of starts to compare, and then compare leads to some doubt. Yeah, that definitely sounds like it makes sense. Curious if there's anyone else that's like open to talk about that. But yeah, I agree with you, man. Have you ever had that type of experience with imposter syndrome? Like, have you ever had it?
Personally, no. I'm still learning, so I think part of me knows that. So I try not to like be too hard on myself.
You know what? That's a good point. Actually, is not is actually kind of knowing what stage of the process you were in, and comparing. Because comparing is actually can be a very positive thing, right? But comparing when it's I guess done in a very unhealthy way, or in an unfair way, almost, I guess we could say unfair, and especially with art, like we have this tendency to look at some of the best and greatest artists, and we're like, oh man, like how come I'm not there, but there's so much when it comes to I guess climbing up the skill and the skill level ladder, right? Some things just take a long time to kind of like develop and understand and that sort of thing, Here, let's get this going. So we got lizard guy, lizard, dragon. Call him a lizard. Give him the proper respect. We have the dragon here. Let me get this claw going a little bit more carefully. Sometimes in some of my classes, I talk with students about points of interest, areas of like a photo or a design where our eye tends to slow down a lot. And sort of like on this creature, on this dragon, there's certain features that probably I might look at that are a little bit more interesting or quote unquote like cool, or whatever the word catchword we want to use. But we all have those different places, and I think it's interesting to kind of look at photos with that in mind. And when I'm looking at this dragon, I'm like, okay, where are the areas of those interests? Where would I look the most, And so I'm like, man, that's where I'm going to start putting more information or more clarity, like if I like to look at the eyes. So I'm starting to see that there's some comments. You come up with a great point, Remy, is not knowing a process, that comes up with a good point, because oftentimes when as an artist, we have this idea that we're trying to develop, this idea that we're trying to portray, we're trying to put down on paper or paint it out or whatever the case it is. And we don't, at times, if we don't have a good, reliable process, then it can become very challenging, super challenging to get that image that we have in our head to become a reality. It's like it's like a puzzle, right? That involves skill and technique and software. It's like this huge puzzle. So without a process, it becomes very unreliable, right? It becomes very unreliable. And when something's unreliable, it creates doubt, right? Imagine it's like you're driving a car that's like unreliable, just kind of craps out when it kind of wants to. And you can't drive to the places where you want to confidently. You're going to be more restricted by oh man, I can't go far, so I have to stay close. You might again, it will just create a lot of doubt. So yes, process is super important. One thing I think as for concept artists to remember is that yes, ideas are absolutely key. Yeah, I mean we are the idea business, right? But in a really close second place, or for other people might even be first place, you having a good design process or image making process or whatever the process is for you to create compelling artwork or whatever is so important. So important, excuse me. So yeah, I 100% agree with you. That's a very, very good point. We're talking about imposter syndrome. What is it? Have you had it? I'm sure I didn't know it was called imposter syndrome, but when I heard that term, I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I had. You know what I mean? I remember feeling very nervous, very lost you know. But it happened. I guess it happened more so on my first job, my first actual in-house, like I'm being hired full time, and there's like an expectation of me. Again, kind of going back to what Remy was saying about process, not having process. If you don't have a process, creates doubt. Man, going into a first job, not knowing anything, and you're like, what do they expect of me? That will definitely bring in some doubt, right? Like, no doubt. Oh, that's funny. The pun intended. No pun. But it's one of those things where, yeah, I think I felt super nervous. You know, even the skills that I had weren't excuse me for my stumbling, but they weren't performing because I was more nervous than anything else. It was kind of one of those things, you know. So anyway, all right. So a little bit more cleaned up sketch. You see the character. He's kind of like battle ready. He's kind of scooching forward with his big old spear, shield, and his dragon right behind him in sort of an aggressive like stance. Alrighty, let's go. Let's do this. Let's paint this sucker. But yeah, imposter syndrome. Okay, let me get a sample. Get some color. Sometimes I'll see a color that I'll put down, and initially it's like a real it'll be a really strong punchy color. Like look how punchy that is, right? Especially with the like the sienna background. But I'll just put that down. Let's plop that down right here. Boom. Okay, so here's my sky tone, my sky. Now I'm pretty stuck. Now I gotta deal with this. And this is part of my experimentation with color, actually, which is like I wouldn't normally approach it this way. So I'm actually going like on the deep end, you know, and then trying to paint through it, trying to paint through the challenge, you know. And so I've actually done this thing where I choose two colors. So like this really punchy teal or turquoise, and then I'll get maybe like a orange or a red or, you know, something kind of complementary or, you know, something like that. And I'll just use those two colors. I'll try to balance the whole thing. Maybe little shifts of warm and cool based on like a material or, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't want to shoot myself in the foot, but imposter syndrome. And so yes, I remember. So my first job, I was working in a ad agency. So I went in, and gosh, I remember I'm at a desk. I was at a computer that I wasn't familiar with. So they were using like Macs all the time, and I wasn't familiar with Macs. And then I would get these papers, these documents of the assignment. Oh, here's your assignment. You know, okay. And it's like, oh, design these like poster ideas or whatever the case, you know. And I'm like, all right. And I'm like, I don't know what to do, you know. Like, there's no other format. It's not like in class they go, okay, I need 3 ideas that I need you to do like this, and you know the teacher like breaks it down, right? So it wasn't like that, you know. And so I was thinking, I'm like, oh man, so like, what do I do? Like, what do I actually have to do? You know? And it felt so foreign. I didn't know if I should go left or right or straight or down. You know, if that makes sense. And so the whole thought about doing like, you know, oh yeah, just do these simple poster ideas. It was like, what? Like, I don't know what to do. You know, it felt so foreign. So yeah, that was one of the cases there, you know. The imposter syndrome.
It's like in school, you kind of have a like structure, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that structure is something that's very important to actually recognize because it I think that's what makes everything comfortable for students. You know, that's like the difference of the real world. You know. So
Yeah, you
yes,
kind of have to make it yourself.
dude, you're yeah, I totally agree, completely agree. And so, what are some? I guess those are some experience that I've had. I'm curious. Are there anything that maybe anyone listening? I don't know. That is like a experience. I wonder. All right, let's carve this rock. You know what's funny? This it's like just be warned. We're gonna bounce back from like painting talk to topic talk to non-topic talk. So it'll be very all over the place. But one thing that I love about kind of doing these looser paintings, okay, is the fact of how brush strokes it can just indicate a lot through just simplified indication. You know, I just think that's really cool. So like seeing those strokes, the brush strokes, if I painted it in a different direction, we would just see the shape so differently. I just think that's kind of I just think it's neat. All right, let's get this silhouette. What am I doing here? What's going on?
I'm working on a project right now, and the other team has Stephen Coleman, Arthur Yon, and like all these big names from the industry. And I'm here like when they post something and when they like upload something, and when you're looking at, I'm like, damn, like these guys are on another level.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, like it's always like, no, man, like I'm not good enough. Like I gotta get good enough, like fast. And that's the thing. Like that's where like I gotta get better. And I guess it's almost feels like, man, what the hell am I doing here? Like there's not even a comparison. Like, yeah.
Oh man, no, that's. Thank you for sharing that. That's pretty crazy. But in I think one of the things that when they talk about when we can maybe discuss what are some of the remedies, of to help with that, to help with the whole imposter syndrome. It's kind of knowing where we are in all this. So what does that kind of mean? It kind of means that, like if of course, like working with certain like experienced people can be like, oh man, I'm in the deep end. Like this is deep. You know what I mean? And it's cool because you're probably gonna learn a lot, right? Like this is probably like experiences that there's no way in the world you could like repeat, and that's really neat. That's really, really cool, But yeah, I think that's probably the positive and negative about all of that. What you're just talking about,
Yeah.
Yeah, I was at the studio called NCSoft, and at that studio at that time, there was a lot of really, really good artists that were that came out of that studio. Like I don't know if you guys know who Kevin Chen is, and Feng Zhu, and who else was there? There's a lot. Anthony Francisco. There were tons. Kang Lee. But in that Santa Monica studio for specifically NCSoft, there were so many people that were just like amazing, And I think when I started working there, I had that same, I guess, impression where I was like, man, I have to really like perform, So I tried to overdo it, like those classic tale of like, oh, I want to try so hard, but you overdo it, and or everything was just like not going my way. It was so frustrating. It was so frustrating. Oh my gosh. I remember that very clearly. And then meanwhile, there's like other people who are just like performing so well, you know? Just like, oh man. So yes, pretty clear, pretty clear. Let's hit this ground plane over here. Yeah, so process. Let's hit in this process. What's a like? How does one develop a process? Like, talk about things that are helping us to rely on your training. It's like a Navy SEAL. It's like a Navy SEAL saying, right? Like, rely on your training. Like, that's why they train so much, because when it comes down to the moment, you don't rely on your emotion. You just, or what your panic is. You rely on your training, right? Just cool. Makes sense, right? So what would be that training that we would all need, or something, which is the process, right? That's how we develop a process. Like we have to train for it. We have to do like things over and over. This is not going to sound great. Like over and over and over and over again to develop the process that's like yours.
I think part of it be just kind of breaking down the foundation, and just kind of repeating it, even if it might take longer at first. Just doing it, like a lot, and so you're just like kind of comfortable, and you're able to kind of like find out like shortcuts to just kind of speed you up.
Walk before you run, right? That kind of stuff. That makes a lot of sense. I agree with that too. I definitely do. It's hard. I would say it's so, when I was going to school, it was not that difficult to stay focused on that, because there wasn't that much information. There wasn't much internet presence. There wasn't all of this stuff that was just obtainable. Like now, there is so much stuff to learn, or presentable information to learn. Wow, it must be quite. It must be hard to stay focused. Like in a way, it's like there's always a software to learn. There's always a new thing, right? I just feel like it must be challenging to not not stay focused. It must be challenging to stay focused. Gosh, I can't like speak right now. Why aren't you turning? There you go. All right. Just slant you. Give it a little slant. All right, there we go. Well, this background's getting solidified.
Yeah, you also see a lot of people doing like using a lot of like new software, whether it be like 3D and there's like other programs, and you think you have to do that as well.
Oh yeah!
Even though you might not be like even like past your like fundamentals.
Yep.
Sometimes people just jump too early.
Oh yeah, and it's and that's the thing I think with portfolio. So for anyone that's joining in now, we're talking about imposter syndrome, and imposter syndrome, and what it does, and one of the things that we do to try to not be in that panic is have a process, right? And so that's what we're kind of talking about. But I think, man, it's I think one of those things where as we try to figure out problems, we have to that's what we need. We need to have these tools. You know, it's not, it's, and especially with concept art, is we are creating art, yes, but actually our main focus is to problem solve something very specific, which is we have this character in that location. We need a design, and we need a lighting and color and mood. Can you solve that equation for us? You know, so it kind of becomes about like a solving method versus just you know, kind of like an art, making art. So yeah, back to the painting. Good morning, Min. Thank you for joining. We're having fun painting this very saturated blue, teal, no, turquoise landscape. All right, let's bring in a let's do a little painting for these characters here. Let me get let me work on this one. So this is just a base color. I'm actually just going to outline it, fill in the silhouette, so I can just get the basic shape. The line drawing is really low, so I just duplicate it on top of itself. Imposter syndrome. But yes, oh wait, someone's gonna say something. Go ahead.
I was going to ask you if you ever had this feeling where you're making an artwork and then as you're working on it, you realize after one point, man, this is not good enough. Man, I could have done so much better. Like when you're like 90% into the artwork, and you're like, oh, this is not good. It's almost like imposter syndrome combined with perfectionism.
Ooh.
And like, no, man, I should have done things differently as I began. So it's like once you're done with it, you will be like looking back and you're like, no, man, like there's like different ways. Looking back at it, is like, things could have gone other way.
Yep. Perfectionism is definitely one of the strong symptoms of imposter syndrome. You know, it is what creates more of that sense of self-doubt when there is a perfect goal. You know what's funny about concept art? It never has to be perfect. That's the crazy thing. That's what I realized about concept art. It is never perfect. It's never perfect because it's just meant to help direct. Okay? Concept art is one of those things where, like, if you're talking about illustration and creating a really effing cool image, you know, just an image that just goes, oh, right? It's designed cool. It's rendered awesome. That's one thing. That's, let's say, more image making, right? But within concept design, there's a lot less of the perfection, and it's more about let's give enough information that they're asking for to have guidance, right? So it becomes a lot less of that stress. You know, it's very, very cool. It's very interesting. You know, because I always thought that it would have been something more like what you're saying, like, oh gosh, it's, you know, there's a better artist than me. Oh my goodness, when I was on my first film, holy cow, man. Okay, in video games, there definitely are some amazing artists, right? Like in any kind of like top tier video game art department, you're always going to have great artists. In film, it was very funny. It was crazy, but you know, everybody was just on this other level. I was like, holy cow, where are you guys from? Like, where are you guys hiding, you know? And I found out later on that they don't really care too much about promoting on the internet and doing this and that because they're part of a union. You know, their job security is different. So I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Anyway, and I'm trying to design next to these guys, and I'm just like, dude, you guys are so good. Like, they're fast. They can paint, like, or, you know, create an image like with incredible intensity and speed, right? And I'm just like, oh my gosh, you guys are like. But I think what ended up happening was it became very challenging. You know, it became like a challenge. I guess how do we see not imposter syndrome, but when there's a intensity of someone that does something really, really well, you know? I'm curious, like, what is the how do you guys normally react? You know, I'm curious. All right, let's give
fuck that guy. Screw that guy.
Yeah, you know, oftentimes that could be the case, right? Just some people could just be like, "Oh man, screw that dude! Like, it's on! Like, let's go!" Right? Kind of get like a game on type of mentality. And then, you know, there could be other people that don't necessarily perform to that degree, right? Which is very fair to say. I think a lot of us can understand what that's like. So I think that's, you know, kind of the thing. Like, how do we? What's one of the remedies? You know, maybe we can start talking about that as I'm doing dark accents. So I'm looking at the lizard up here. It's kind of like my key. One of my key references there. Just painting shadows. I've been doing the same kind of like painting style. You know, I don't normally paint like this for studios, for production work. This is much more just like on a leisure pass. Brushstrokes. Looking at some anatomy. The base coat, you know, that base color. Maybe we'll keep it. Maybe we might keep that color. Might be kind of fun. But we also have opportunity to kind of like mix in some of the sky tone. I think that's where I have some fun. You know, mix in some sky tone. That's the problem. That's the equation that I'm sort of stuck with now, is to use that color and then use the color of the sky and harmonize it, basically create a harmony. So that's been kind of fun for me. Here's my two colors, like I was saying earlier. I'll like paint myself into a hole. And it's weird because I'll just choose like a super intense color, right? Like I have this one painting where I have this like super orange sky, right? And it's because I'm doing this, like this whole exercise. And I'll get these comments like, "Oh man, dude, your colors are sick," and I'm just like, I just chose a color that was like so far from what I'm normally trying to do. Thank you, you know. But yeah. All right, let's look at these feet.
I guess a part of imposter syndrome is just acceptance. It's like, yeah, I'm shit. I know I'm shit, but it's also that you know that you are shit. Like feeling not good enough about your artwork means you are pushing your skills. Like you understand. You have a lot to learn. You have like people who are around you who are better than you. That means like you are in a good space. Like you are on the right track.
Mm-hmm.
That can be one way of looking at it and growing out of it.
Absolutely.
Like if you imagine you didn't have an imposter syndrome. Like you're like, oh man, I'm the shit. You know, there's like no one better around me. I guess that would be the worst place.
Sure. Yeah. Not having that kind of like more humble attitude, right? Because you know one definite thing about our industry is that you know, especially in within the art community and everything, you know, we have vastly different skill levels, vastly different, you know. And if we were only being judged on one particular layer of our ability, which, you know, would just be like, let's say the art ability, then, you know, there would be a lot less jobs out there. But our particular field is a lot different. Like, we have so many layers of why somebody would need a designer or a concept artist or a character designer, whatever the case is, right? There's so many reasons why they would need it. And how to solve that problem is just much more just beyond than just doing really, really good art, you know? So that's what I thought was like very, very cool about what I learned in the industry is it's not all about the rendering, you know? It's not about like the art points. I talk about this story every once in a while, and I think it applies here. But I was working at this one game studio, and I had a Craig Mullins painting open on Photoshop as like this reference. And I had this one coworker was walking by. He's like in modeling, or he's like a rigger or something. And he was walking by. I was like, "Hey James, dude, sick painting, bro." Right? And I was like, "Hey man, that's Craig Mullins, dude. You can't talk of his works in such ways. That's blasphemy." You know? And it's funny, but I just remember saying that, and he's like, "Man, and this is what he was saying. He's saying, I can't tell. Like it's like your art is good and this art was good. Like I thought it was yours, right? Like I authentically thought it was yours." And I was like, whoa, that's a trip, because, you know, to non-artists, I'm sure what they look at in terms of like our art and design and that sort of stuff, it could be, you know, they can't maybe tell the difference between some of the artists that we inspire to be like and the art that we're doing. You know, it could, at a certain point, it starts to get a little bit closer to each other and closer to each other. You know what I mean? And I thought that was, I was like, it kind of like opened my eyes a little bit. I was like, oh wow, like, you know. But I was like, still, we're still miles apart. But our miles apart is different. It's a different scale than what they're seeing. I don't know if that makes sense, but hopefully it does. Alrighty, let's get this going. Paint this arm up. And I've been doing these lizard designs and putting these like dinosaur-esque like spikes on them. It's having fun. Some designing. Love how simple it can get at times. Couple of marks, it just reads. There's a lot of read, especially with the lighting, graphic shapes. Having some fun. It's funny, I still find myself painting ideas that I had from when I was very young, even at this older age. It's funny. Like, I used to paint dinosaurs that, like, you know, there's like these dinosaurs that are like, you know, that they walk on 2 feet, and there's dinosaurs that are quadruped, but they look like, you know, they're longer or taller. I've always liked these like really low to the ground dinosaurs. I would always draw those. I would always draw those lizards, you know, kind of more alligator-esque, I guess, in that kind of like realm. But I just thought it was funny, man. I was like, it reminded me of some of the things I used to draw when I was younger. All right. don't know if you guys can hear, but my son's in the back, like singing. Okay, let's keep painting this sucker up. So like lizards from the front, man, they're so challenging. I like paint this like with care. Establish some darks, get in some mids. Anywhere it's kind of darker feels like it's a little bit more vertical. It's like subtle brush strokes.
Hey, James.
Hey, what's up?
So while working on these daily artworks,
Mm-hmm.
you ever go like, oh man, 3 days, I've been killing it. These are like the best paintings. And then the 4th day, you change the subject of the painting, and you're like, man, I suck.
Oh man, that's funny. But I think that's part of it. Is it's like it's every week or so I'll try to get into the cycle. So I get more addicted to cycles, and trying to repeat these learning cycles. And so it's almost like a disguise. Rather than individually looking at each painting and looking at that and gauging and judging and stuff, you know, what I'll do is I'll work in this like batch of 1 week, and in the beginning of the week I'll do like simple studies. So I'll literally just copy a photo of like a lizard or something, and then eventually I'll get to a point of doing a study, but then like adding in another lizard or another, you know, rock, or just something more interesting, you know. And I would keep doing that until I get to the point where like what day of the week would it be, like I'm like day 5 or day 6 now, and I would do more something like conceptual, like these adaptations where like I change it on my own. Like now this is like completely more pieced together. I feel like I have a bit of practice with it, you know. So like the first couple of days I'm just doing studies. It's really chill, you know. It's low stress. It's great. But then when I get to like day 5, 6, I'm doing something more intentional and a bit more, you know, there's a bit more layers now, more how should I say, like, yeah, layers, more complexity. Then I'll change it up. As you were saying, I'll change it up.
Sorry, I'm late to your talk.
Oh, welcome. We have a topic of the day. The topic of the day is imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome.
I've been struggling with that for 2 years now. Can I leave?
He's like, no, PTSD. No, I'm just kidding.
I have it really bad.
But we're just talking about that topic, and just, you know, now we're kind of like rotating on the ideas of like, what are some of the good remedies? Like, what are some good things to help, you know, with imposter syndrome and that sort of thing. All right.
If anybody has any helpful tips, I would gladly appreciate them.
All right, so we have darks right here, right? Layer by layer, base coat, darks. I think I forgot to hit more mid. Keep still doing some mid tones. But then what I like to do is I'll paint under. There we go. Feels like a little bit more sinister in the shadows. And I have to remember that there's also a character in front of him. All right, cool. There we go. That's fine. That's working. Sweet. All right, let's see if we can mix. Find that right mixture of colors I just feel like we're getting some light. There we go. It's kind of working. I feel like it's rolling. Have you ever seen those behind the scenes of movies, like on like a, you know, like when you're watching the, like, you know, special whatevers, and then they'll have a sphere, they'll have a chrome ball that they'll take a picture of while they're filming. Have you guys ever seen that? And that chrome ball. Oh yeah, so the chrome ball. What's that?
That's for the HDR, right? Like for the reflections.
Yeah. It's like a key. So they'll take a picture so that, you know, when people are doing special effects or whatever, they'll know like the sky, the ground, like, you know, they'll know all the reflections and everything, you know. So it's very important for some of the special effects and stuff. But I don't know why I brought that up, but I thought those were kind of cool. So I feel like I'm doing that right now. I'm like doing the disco ball, the shiny sphere in here. I'm just like bouncing all the colors, you know, in an interesting way. Let me see. I think I have to like adjust this.
Wait a minute. Are you streaming? Do I need to go to a different platform?
Oh yeah. So here, let me go to if you're on the Discord, go ahead and jump on the news, events, and whatever channel, and then there should be a link to a YouTube link. So I'm streaming on YouTube right now.
Okay.
Yeah. And then yeah, just feel free, and then we'll see you in there. But stay on this voice channel so that we can still talk. If
okay.
So.
Let me mute myself though.
All right, so here we go. Let's keep this up. Right, so like the way the colors kind of interact with all this it's kind of interesting. It's a fun experiment. I'm gonna try to show you guys some other things that I like to maybe mess around with, but let's get a little bit more render. Put some nice hot spots of like popping value. Gotta remember where my dude is, the night. Okay, because I'd hate to paint all this stuff and then it just goes into the way zone, you know. That would kind of suck. All right, let's zoom into this face over here. Look at that beautiful face. Look at that sucker. All right, what happened? Here you go. All right. What's going on? Stop doing that. All right, there we go. Let's get some of that reflection going on. Front of that nose. And take a look. Keep a look at that.
You know, a couple of streams ago we were talking about Love, Death, Robots.
Yes.
And yeah, and in one of these recent seasons, there was a whole, I guess, space episode about like how evolution kind of works. And can you just imagine looking at this lizard and being like, man, like he's from the same evolution pool that we were, like millions of years apart.
Yeah. That's funny.
Your reference photo, he's so cute.
He is, right? He's cute. He'd jack you up, but he's he's really cute.
I'm one of those that if I could have a kimono dragon, I would.
Oh man, are you the people that we see in those videos that like get too close to the tigers?
Yes, I would so do it. I would gladly die by a, big
no. Oh no. All right, stay away from the petting zoos. Gotta stay clear.
Oh, you mean the zoos? Yeah.
Oh man. Anyways, starting to build it up. So get some interest on that nose, bring more interest to like the tip of the face. But yeah. Get this arm, get that arm a little bit. And I have this brush. Let me see here. boop, bunch of dots. Kind of emulates this, right? Kind of emulates that texture. If we get the right colors, you know, you can kind of get that. So let's see what happens. So part of the painting process here that I have to like be very mindful about is how I layer the values, you know, because I'm just like painting under the darks. Yes, you know what I mean? All this stuff is just painting under the darks. The darks are like controlling all the form, but then the colors that I'm doing right now, that's what like looks like light, you know, hitting the form. So right, like little spots, little speckles. Mr. Lizard over here. Let's keep going. It's fun, pretty fun. This is like lately I've just been like turning on a movie and painting these scenes. Oh, thanks for the comment, Jin Toki. Oh yeah, I'm gonna be doing actually more interviews. So if you guys don't know or haven't seen, I've been doing some interviews lately. I just released like a second one, and I just thought, like, you know, I'm just interviewing different concept artists and people in our field that I thought are just interesting and good to know about because of the way they've sort of solved the whole hunt that everyone is in, you know. Like if we think about this as a video game, like some people are just playing the game a little bit better than others, right? And people might think it's luck, and other people think there's a bit of strategy or what's wrong with my speaking today? It's so funny. A little bit of luck, but you know, some people might think there's a little bit more to it, right? Which I agree with, than just, oh, you're super lucky. So yeah, I just want to interview people, talk with people. So I'm gonna do more of that. But yeah, thanks for mentioning that. Here, I feel like I gotta mess around with this lizard here. It kind of has this look of being like different colors. Like, it's kind of interesting. I don't know. We'll just leave it here. Gotta keep going. All right. Let's see. Let me just put some little details on the eyes over there so we don't have something to look at. All righty. Yeah, that's good. Just a little flicker. It's like the eye of a great white shark. They're so scary. They just go black. So awesome. Speaking of sharks, have you guys ever seen a shark up close, like in a cage, or you know, anyone do cage shark watching? I don't even know what term I need to be calling it.
No, but I would love to see one up close.
It would be cool. Like, as long as it's in a very safe. Oh man, like, dude, that would be one of my worst nightmares come true if a shark was like about to, you know, do its thing on me, and I'm like, oh, oh my gosh, forget about it. So yeah, I'd be down. I would totally be up to checking out a shark up close. My wife, though, she'd be like, hell no, you better get that thing away from me, man. She'd probably punch me. All right, little nail highlights. All right, cool. So far, so good. Let me plumb something up. This is something I'm messing around with, just like a little bit of channels, not channels, but gosh, what can I speak right now? What was it called? Here, I'll just show you. Maybe you guys can remind me. Hold on.
So did we move on from the sharks topic?
What's that?
Did we move on from the sharks topic?
Uh-huh.
There's this recent movie called Dangerous Animals about a serial killer who just feed people to sharks. Like, that's a pretty interesting movie that I watched recently.
Oh, right on. That's cool. All right. I forgot what I'm doing right now. Blend modes. There you go. Yeah, so I'm just like, I'll like knock in some color and then I'll just mess around with blend modes. You see how like it just like I can massage it into the painting a little bit. This is just kind of fun. You know, so I'll do this with like some accent colors or I'll shift it around. You know, like I'll get mixtures of colors that I won't normally think of these. There's like no way. But if I like it, I'll maybe like set on it, you know, like that. Let's say like this is pretty punchy. It's a little too strong for my taste. So if we like knock it down, but now it has this mixture in there, you know. So I'll start using this as another way to throw in some accents, right? But it's just again, like now that I'm not trying to spend much brain power on how to like. I'm literally not designing a dragon. I'm just like copying the crap out of this photo, right? But you know, it's a play to like mess around with colors and stuff. You know what I mean? So it's pretty fun. I've been enjoying this series. If you don't know about the series, like on my Discord channel, we do a daily sketch update. I've just been doing a lot of like different topics each week, and I've been just doing these knights and dragons. All right, let's hop on over. Let's do this. Let's do the knight. What's up, Mr. Knight? All right, same thing. Let's just apply that base coat. Some interesting colors happening. I kind of push that here. Hold on, let me just do it one more time. Too funny. So if I start pushing like some, oh, maybe that might be too strong. There's like some colors, just like kind of like really strongly apply them in here. And then let's hit some blend modes. It's like just filter it down, see what happens. You know, there's areas that you might want to keep, might lose, but it's a fun way to experiment, at least for me. You know, it's kind of fun. Put a mask on it and get rid of or bring back any areas that you want or not want. Okay. Pretty fun. Okay, let's do this. All right, this is just a base coat so I could kind of see the shape, see the silhouette. Silhouette is key, right? And again, there's basically no designing on this. There's no designing on this one. It's such a generic character, but trying to make it not generic by having a fun narrative maybe, or just doing a fun illustration, maybe pushing colors, whatever the case it is, you know. All right, I can't even see the drawing. I gotta go over it and probably erase into it. There we go. Question: from what I remember, you studied at Art Center. That's true. I was wondering about some of the amount of homework there was. What was the focus, quality, or quantity, and in general, what was the approach? Okay, so in Art Center, the homework was insanely a lot. All right, you had 5 or 6 like studio classes that were like 5 hours per class. Like each class is 5 hours long, and each class, that teacher, that specific teacher, would think their class was the most important class for you. So they would give you the amount of homework in which was like, this is, my class is so important, I'm going to give you this much homework and you got to do it. Okay. And the homework was a lot. Like there were some classes where, you know, you had to do like 500 heads in a day, or not in a day, like in a week, or, you know, like there was, I would say, if people weren't careful and they didn't know how to do good time management, that was something you would probably have to learn in order to excel at that school. You would have to. There's no way, you know? So, yeah, the homework was a lot. I think it was just pretty much that's all you're doing is day and night. You're just doing art 7 days a week, you know, for the duration of that semester. And, you know, every class was intense, you know. So yeah, that's kind of like the direction. That's pretty much what it was. And here's the kicker to that. Here's the thing that's a bit interesting to all of that is, the teacher would give you a certain amount of homework. Okay, the teacher. However, the students would often do more homework than the teacher would assign. So then it became about like, oh man, all right, you're gonna do that? Okay, I'm gonna try to, you know, outperform that person now, you know, because, you know, it's especially the mentality at Art Center was, it's not about your grade. It's like you got to be on the top few of the class because that's the percentage that gets hired, you know. So yeah, I remember it was like like super competitive in that sensibility, super competitive. Yes. I've used a lot of layers. Yes. Is there a reason why you work with so many for rendering instead of so few? Yeah. So what I do is I just do a lot of layers because it's sort of just like a thought, you know, when I'm kind of putting a mark down, and so for right now I'm just doing like these dark accents. It kind of starts off a bit more simplified. And then later on, it gets into like more of a layered mess, especially with all of this, with just the layering experimentation with the, you know, with the alligator, not the alligator, but like the dragon over here, you know. So I just kind of do it just to experiment, you know. That's about it. That's about it. There's not a huge other reason why, you know, when I do a lot of photo bashing and that sort of technique, my layers go really, really, really crazy, you know, because everything is sort of like a changeable, revisable layer for everything, you know. But and eventually I'll like flatten it down, and then just kind of go for it, you know, again. And once I make some decisions that are like a little bit more fortified, and I'm comfortable with the decisions that I made. All right, let's get this sucker going. I have a time limit. I'm gonna try to finish this in 20 more minutes. So, under the gun, right? Talking about the imposter syndrome. You know, what are some of the things that we need to do in order to, I guess, have a solid process, right? Talking about process. That was a good. I think that was a really good bit of advice. Let's have a good process. You know, having a process is one of those things where I think, you know, when you take a class and you learn something, and let's say you take like a Blender class, and you learn from the instructor, and you're sort of like copying the steps. Does that define as you learned a process? You know, it's arguably, some people say yes and some people say no. I think it's not understanding a full process. It's understanding kind of like this controlled exercise. But, you know, that's not what we're talking about when you get hired in the industry. It's not like these controlled exercises, right? They're like you're off into battle. Design. Ooh, this dude is armored up, man. It kind of has like this stormtrooper visibility or sensibility because I can design this character only by using darks, like only dark accents, which I thought is kind of like, it's totally stormtrooper shape language, not shape language, but like design mentality. Oh yeah, look at that. Look at that knee pad, knee armor that just protrudes because the knee's bent. It's like, and then like you see inside of it the dark ellipse. There's things that I do or things that I see in a photo that I'll do to the character, you know, to the painting, and I'm like, oh yeah, I like that. I like that part. That looks good. Little cues, visual cues. Let's see here. Yeah, let's keep going. So we're almost at a point where we're gonna do the same thing that we did to the dragon, but to the character now, you know. You know, for myself, when it came to thinking about imposter syndrome, to me it was really about preparation, being really prepared, and you know, the way that I thought best suited, you know, how to be prepared was to just do a lot of mileage, just tons of mileage, right? Over and over and over again, as many as I could. And it became this like a numbers game, as many paintings as I could do. And this reminds me of the story. Maybe you guys have heard this story. It's kind of a famous tale that people use as like life lessons. But so there's a classroom of 30 students at this community college, and it's a pottery class, right? And the pottery class is, you know, on the first day of school, the teacher says, all right, I'm going to split you guys in half, 15 over there and 15 over there. And this is how we're going to give you guys a grade. The first group, you're going to make one pot for the whole entire semester. You're just going to make one pot. Not two, just one. But you're going to make that one as perfect as you can. Perfection, right? And then there's the other group. The other group's assignment was you will be graded on as how many you can make, the quantity, not the quality, not the perfection of one, but the amount that you can create, the quantity, right? There's two drastically different focuses for the students. Now, last day of school comes, and the students are showing their work, right? Which group has the better pot? The one that did one, or the group that did as many as they could? And so the answer is the group that did as many as they could not only had the highest quantity, but also had the best quality because of the mileage. So that was something that stuck with me quite a bit. And I always thought about doing, you know, kind of like the discussion about the artwork for the week, having that focus and then rotating it, very similar, but having a way to really focus on just getting that improvement, having that process, quantity, just do mileage, 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 and eventually you just discover, find, and solve, which are like such amazing words, right? That's what we do as concept designers, is we visualize, we solve, we discover. That's like the core. So perfectionism is almost like the opposite, the exact opposite of what we're actually trying to do. You know, we're trying to do mileage. We're trying to do as many as we can in order to get the, you know, the mileage focus, not the perfection focus. We're not on that side of the class. Yeah, dude. This guy's got some shiny pants. So you guys kind of see how it's I'll just have like a color, and I'm just trying to harmonize, bring the sky and everything else mixed in to like the local color of whatever that base was. And so this has sort of been the experimentation here. I think some of this is getting a little too strong, some of the oranges. Yeah, I might just turn that down. But so next week, I had a thought. Let me give you guys a little bit of breakdown for what I want to do for next week's live stream. Is I wanted to talk about some of my experiences. So I want to talk about composition specifically for designing for games and film. And I'm going to show you guys some art that I did for different projects, and I'll talk about that experience. You know, maybe working for Transformers, or doing some stuff for League of Legends, whatever, you know, whatever these projects. I'll show you guys some of the art and, you know, what were the decisions of composition. So it won't be a art, you know, like an art talk. What am I saying? Yeah, it will be an art talk, but it won't be a it won't be a like a demo. It won't be like a demo week like this. It'll be yeah, be more, a little bit more in discussion. You know, I want to experience some different subject matter for the live streams. You know, if there's topics that you guys are interested in for me to cover, I would love to hear, you know. Totally all ears. All right, there's a question that I'm going to jump into reading in just a moment here. It says, is that okay to ask another question? I really love how you do armor. Do you have any tips or study tips? Oh yeah, absolutely, man. You just got to do studies. You just got to do a lot of studies. Let me show you some studies. Now, I want to talk about like when I just do a study, like I just do a copy. You know, this is just like a literal copy. You know, but the thing is when you're doing studies is to reduce information. You know, it's really about simplifying, because your brain, it does this funny thing. When something is very simplified, your brain makes up a lot of it. You know, it's this very funny thing that our brain does, and let's just let the brain do that. You know, so really learn how to just get some, you know, just do some just straight studies. That's all, just straight up studies. And it could be something very basic. Again, that's how I start with all of my studies, is I just do something very basic. And eventually, here, watch, I'll show you the photo even. Here, it was somewhere here. There's nothing spectacular, you know, but I just have fun doing these, and you just do a lot, you know. Like even the photo that I did the study from, it's not even, doesn't even have the same color. Like I pushed it a lot more. Here, you see the study here. Here's the photo, and here's the study, right? So I'm just trying to simplify as much as possible. You know, there's a lot off, there's a lot different, there's a lot wrong, but I'm not trying to copy. It's trying to study, trying to learn, you know. So you're like, oh, that's a sky tone, sun reflects some of the ground. That's a shadow. We're talking about the helmet. So that when we come here and we're trying to do it from almost like, you know, limited reference, or like reference that's in combination, right, where it's not like one-to-one, then it's more challenging, right? It's a bit harder, you know. So yeah, that's why I think doing the exercises like I was talking about, like you do a bunch of studies so that you learn, and then you eventually take a test, right? And that test is like doing something like this, where you're putting it together, but it's a little different. You know what I mean? So personal work, right? Just develop your personal senses. Some people, when they do personal work, they like to do what they do best over and over again. Okay, does that make sense? Some people, when they do personal work, they do what they do really well, and they do it over and over again. Then you have other people who, when they do personal work, they are trying to learn things that they haven't learned. Right? So like it's very different. It's a very different, two different people. Very, very different like types of learner, student, you know? So that's something that I would say too. And you can learn in phases. If your techniques are not there yet, don't worry about process. You have to know techniques first. Then techniques are lined up and become a process. Then when you have a process, it's about refining it. So at a certain point, you shouldn't learn anything more. It's kind of a funny thing to say, but you want to reduce what you learn so that you have more opportunity to perfect it. You guys know what I mean? Because if we keep on learning new things, when do we ever perfect what we know, right? It's one of those weird things. So yeah, that's what I would say. All right, over to this guy. Let's finish you off. It's kind of on a roll. All right. But yes, next week we'll talk about, or at least that's the plan. We'll talk about some composition. That's the focus of art. But in terms of, I guess, just the topic of conversation, we'll discuss a lot of different things. But some of the experiences of working on different projects, you know, games, film. The art often looks the same, but man, the experience and the expectations are vastly, vastly different. Okay. What else is happening in your reality, in your world? Hope everything is good with everybody. Hope everyone is healthy, strong, and, you know, and able to give us the ability to focus on some of the stuff we love, like doing this. Speaking about being strong and healthy, I hope everyone takes care of their health, thinks of that on a high priority. I know it's not easy. But without that, we can't do a lot of things. In fact, can't do anything. So yeah, take care of your bodies, everybody. Be healthy, be strong. All right. Yeah, so we're just jamming on this guy, man. Yeah, if there's any more questions, please let me know. Imposter syndrome. We're talking about some remedies. We're just discussing about how, for me, preparation was one of the most important factors when it came to fighting the imposter syndrome. You know, just having more questions that I would ask. I started to carry around this sketchbook that just had notes. It wasn't even a sketchbook for drawing. It was a sketchbook for me to think about what are questions that I could ask in a review, in an art meeting, in a whatever, so that I know more, so that the more I know, the better I can perform. Does that make sense? And I think that's very important, because even to now, I use a lot of the same questions to talk to clients. You know, because here's a big hint. Here's a big secret. Sometimes your clients don't even know what they want. So we need to almost help them in a way by talking them through some of the, some of the nuances and stuff, right? All right, let's see how this is working out. I feel like I got to design something on this. You know what's funny? The more I do this character, I feel like he's turning into Boba Fett. I feel like he's turning into the Mandalorian. It's funny, man. Mandalorian Knights. Here you go, Disney. Here you go. Here's a free one. And if you see a Mandalorian Night episode, then you saw it here first. No, I'm just kidding. But does he kind of feel like he has that Mandalorian, like stormtrooper aesthetic, I guess. You know, that's just there. It's kind of interesting. Kind of makes me want to add like just by saying that out loud, instead of like the sort of normal, big metal features that you would see like on a shield. Why don't I cut line this like it was more like tech? And now I see where the whole Destiny thought process is coming into play, where it's like this like medieval future. If you guys seen like the really old initial concept art they did for Destiny, like Jamie Jones and stuff, it was like a lot of medieval stuff. A lot of medieval plus sci-fi. It was a really interesting, cool visual. But yeah, I feel like I'm getting this. It's actually kind of fun. Pew! Let's tie you guys in together. There you go. You guys are brothers. The Red Dot Brothers. And this is just like the last but not least part. The little touch-ups, just the free layer up top, and kind of combing over things. This wasn't it wasn't the smoothest painting, but I think it came out okay. Having fun with it. It was definitely fun. So now we see the character. We see the dragon. I think I'm missing a little bit of let's see, like a cast shadow here. Just gotta make it like a little stylized. It's like some nice brush strokes. There we go. Cool. There we go. So yes, today, oh wow, we're on the dot, man. 9:30, like on the dot. We're getting better at this. But today we had a good talk. Talked about imposter syndrome. It's a topic that, gosh, like I think everybody has experienced it in one way, form, shape, or another. Maybe it was thought of as another name, but it's, I think we've all had that, and I think it's natural, it's normal, but we can always do something about preparing ourselves to be more informed so that we don't feel in the dark, right? Which is, I think, one of the most crippling things that we could feel, right? So as an artist, as a concept artist, I think when you talk to your teachers, you talk to your instructors or whoever it is, your art directors, mentors, whoever the people are, is maybe start also asking them about questions like this that come up about, you know, how do you handle things that you don't know how to do? Or how do you prepare yourself for a meeting, or, you know, something like this, something that helps you understand like how they solve and figure out stuff more on a mental level, you know, because art can always be the topic, art can always be the conversation. It's actually kind of easy, but when we're talking about stuff like this, it can get a little bit deeper, a little bit more personal. Next week, join me next week, everybody. Another live stream. It's been fun. This was a fun one today. Knights and Dragons episode. So here we go. Totally not the colors that I thought I was going to pull. I thought it was going to be more in this orange realm based on the reference, but kind of hiked into here. No doubt, though, it was really fun. You know, thank you so much. But yeah, these guys are on the same team. They're about to wreak some havoc. Go start some ish, and probably go home and they're gonna party it up afterwards. Put some more spikes on his face.
When's the knight gonna ride the dragon?
Oh, dude, you know that's coming, man. Pretty soon there's gonna be like a, you know, like a harness, right? Oh man, probably know it's there.
Sick.
It's part of the story evolution, right? But yeah, anyways, this was a fun one, guys. Thank you for joining. I'll talk to you guys next week. Watch the episode again. It'll be on YouTube in just a little bit. So we'll see you guys on the next one. Take care, everybody. Have fun. See ya.
Thank you, James.
Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.